All right, welcome to our next section about westward expansion and manifest destiny. I am going to do my best not to have that annoying rustling sound that I've had in the last, but who knows? We'll see how it works out. I have about 10 minutes until the boys are done building a Lego city, so let's do this. Manifest destiny is what we're going to focus on, and you can still see this concept of manifest destiny today. It was a phrase that was actually coined by a magazine editor, journalist called John L. O'Sullivan. And he coined this phrase, and it was like the Democratic and U.S. Review or something like that, some kind of magazine that nobody reads, that does not exist anymore, regardless. Anyways, John L. O'Sullivan comes up with this idea of manifest destiny. And what he is saying is that Americans have the God given right to move west, to expand their ideas and their culture and take over that land. God has chosen them to do that. This is the concept of manifest destiny. And you can see this even today in American individualism, in the fact that we are proud to be an American and nothing can stop us. And we are given this right. We have this entitlement where we feel that we have this entitlement. And it stems all the way back to 1800. So kind of this personality that many Americans have and we have in our country today, it goes straight back to the 1800s with manifest destiny. God has chosen us. We are allowed to do this. It is our right. We're going to do it. And so John L. O'Sullivan is the one who's credited with that. So the first thing we're going to talk about with Manifest Destiny is this idea of quest for Texas. Now, I know your textbook, it starts off talking about like Andrew Jackson invading Spain and then kind of forcing Spain's hand to sell it to us because we weren't going to leave anyways, because that's how Andrew Jackson did it. We're not really going to talk about that. Our focus today is actually going to be working on how do we gain control of Texas, that sweet, sweet Lone Star State. It is like, what else do we know about Texas? Austin has a slogan, keep Austin weird. Everything's bigger in Texas. God bless Texas. It's a very much, Texas has its own personality. I was actually reading online the other day that somebody's like, in Norway, I don't know if this is true, by the way. So this is just kind of funny that in Norway, people are like, if you're doing something really crazy and like something that people are kind of looking at you weird about, they call it, oh, are you acting like you're from Texas? I don't know if that's true, but it's kind of funny if it is. Anyways, going with this blue part here, you can see that we do not own any of that blue part. And in the pink part where it says Oregon country, that is a jointly occupied territory between the United States and Great Britain. We will obviously get that territory later on at the 49th parallel. But all the blue is still going to be owned by Spain. Once Mexico defeats Spain and gains their own independence from their own European colony or European country of Spain, then we will go into that territory and take it over from Mexico. So how do we get Texas? First of all, you have some guys named Austin. Obviously, the last name Austin, and also that's why you have a city in Texas called Austin. All right, so it's going to start off with Moses Austin. Mexico, or actually, let me go back. The people living in and around Texas and in that California, Nevada, Utah area, their estimate is about 70,000, 75,000 Mexicans living in that territory, in that entire territory, which is not a lot because it's far away from Mexico City. So people who are living in that territory that are Mexican are kind of removed from society, and they're kind of doing their own things. And you should envision a lot of ranches, a lot of cattle, things like that, when you think of this territory. So what Mexico not needs is they need more people to come in and settle that land and live in that territory, because it's really hard to claim a territory if nobody's living there. I mean, it leaves it open for people to just come in and take over. So Moses Austin knows that, and so he actually petitions the Mexican government to give him land. He says, hey, we'll settle this land. We'll become Mexican citizens. We'll pay taxes. We'll become Catholic. Just give us this land, and we'll help you add more people into this territory that you need settled. And Mexico actually agrees. Unfortunately, Moses dies before he can settle the land, so it goes to his son, Stephen F. Austin. So Stephen is the one who's actually going to get the settlers to come into Texas. And these are going to be American and European settlers. So Stephen gets 300 settlers to move in. They're given, Austin has a grant for 200,000 acres, and each family will get about 4,000 acres, which I don't know if you know, is a lot. That's a lot of land. As mentioned in the last slide, you guys can read these 4 bullet points. These are the things that the settlers had to agree to in order to get the land. They had to become Mexican citizens. They had to convert to Catholicism because you have to understand most of the Europeans coming in, or definitely a lot of the Americans coming in, were Protestant or some form of Protestant. They have to pay Mexican taxes and follow the laws, and they had to free all their slaves by age of 14. If you know anything about Texas, you know that Texas during the American Civil War fought in the Confederacy, so it was a slave territory. And of course, everybody's like, oh, absolutely, we'll follow all these rules. And I mean, you're going to quickly see they don't follow them. And it's really hard to make people follow the rules. It would be like me telling you that you have to do something right now, and I'm not at your house, so I really can't make you do that. That's your mom or your dad or your grandma's job. Okay? So Austin is able to get these settlers. In total, the settlers pay like $150 for 4,000 acres of land. He gets 120, sweet deal, and the Mexican government gets $30 per family. So Austin is definitely making some good money off of this. So moving on. The settlers are supposed to, like I said, they're supposed to follow these rules, and they don't. They don't free their slaves. They don't become Catholic. They don't change their citizenship. They are Americans. They're just living in Texas. And actually, when I say they're Americans, most of them eventually will identify as being Texans because they feel that America has not helped them out, and they definitely don't feel like they're part of Mexico. So they don't follow any of the rules that they're supposed to in order to get that land. But the problem is they've already moved in on the land. So now, if you have people who are living on your land who you don't like, who weren't following your rules, what are you going to do about it? Well, the Mexican government's gonna have to do something about it, or they're just gonna have to let it be. So what's going to happen is you have this guy, General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna. You might have heard of like the Santa Ana Winds. This is going to be coming from, you're going to hear about this guy twice, okay? So he's going to be here for like the fight for Texas independence, but you're also going to hear about him during the Mexican-American War. And I'm going to go ahead and spoiler alert, he's going to lose Texas, and he's going to lose all of the territory in the United States. So just in case you didn't realize that. So in 1834, he takes over. Well, this is the kind of guy, he's more of a dictator. He's not necessarily like, oh, vote for me. I'm super, super nice. I'm the best guy. He's a dictator. So by 1835, he abolishes a constitution. Anytime anybody abolishes a constitution, you can go ahead and imagine things are not going well in that country. All right. So Mexicans, that's fun. Americans in Texas ask for independence from Mexico. He's like, oh yeah, you want independence? Yeah, I don't think so. So he decides he's going to march all the way up from Mexico City with thousands of soldiers and take over the territory. Other people were just like, okay, this is really going to happen. And he actually does bring up thousands of soldiers. So then you come to the Alamo here. This is where you go to San Antonio, Texas. The Alamo is actually, I'm blanking right now. Oh, it's just a mission. And originally, why are there Texans in the Alamo? That's going to be this big battle is because you're going to have a guy named Sam Houston who's going to be the head of all of the Texans, who is going to tell them, hey, go down to the Alamo and blow it up, and then rendezvous back here with me. Well, some people in Texas have a hard time following orders and changed their mind and decided they were going to make a stand against Santa Anna and his thousands of soldiers. We will get to that. Look at the dates, February 23rd, 1836 to March 6th, 1836. So it's not just like a, in and out in one day situation. There will be a siege, and we know that a siege is when you surround an area and basically try to starve them out or make them surrender. So as it says here, the Alamo was a small mission. You have famous people that are going to be there. You have Jim Bowie. He's going to be famous for the Bowie knife, and he's a rough and tumble outdoorsman. You have William B. Travis. He's going to be the leader, the military leader of the expedition that was supposed to go and blow things up. They were supposed to just go in, take any of the artillery, any of the weapons or cannons or anything that are there, take it back and rendezvous with Sam Houston, like I said, and blow up the mission. They don't do that. They decided it was a good place to hole up in and to make a stand against Santa Anna. Santa Anna then arrives with over 1,500 men. So you can see that the numbers there are loose with 180 men. Some sites will say it's 188 men. It doesn't matter. It's 180 something men against 1,500. That's a big difference. I would not want to be in that battle. This is just a picture of the Bowie knife that Jim Bowie was famous for using. Like I said, a lot of like frontiersman characters are named after this guy and how he's gonna gut a man with the knife, things like that. So Santa Anna's men shell the fort for over a week. So they're laying siege to it, and then they're just throwing some cannons at it. The Texans attempt to negotiate peace, and Santa Anna decides, yeah, I have 1,500 men. You have 180. I'm pretty much going to come in and destroy you. And that's what he does. Santa Anna actually was almost shot twice during the siege, like literally to the point where his hat was knocked off with a bullet, and one had like grazed his lapel or something like that. So he was like almost killed because we had Texan sharpshooters. Because remember, Americans, we have a lot of the Americans, especially if you're in the South, are sharpshooters. Um, and so he was almost taken out, and that would have ended the situation, but it didn't happen. So what's going to happen is Santa Anna in the early morning hours is going to lead an actual physical attack on the Alamo, and all the people are going to be dead within, what is it, 20 minutes, an hour? Doesn't really matter. Davy Crockett, you guys might have heard of him. Davy Crockett, the man of the wild frontier. There's a song about it. If you want to look up that song, it's pretty fun. Disney made a movie about him in like, or I don't know if it was a movie or a show, 1960s. Anyways, I'm getting long. I'm gonna have to cut this off. So this will be a two-parter. Anyways, Davy Crockett, he's going to be one of the ones who's going to be killed, and legend has it that he took out 16 men before he died. That was like there were 16 bodies around him, so it was just like a very superhero type moment. The survivors of the Alamo, they did actually allow some people to leave before the battle ensued. So you had one slave who was like, yeah, I'm out of here, thanks. You had one person who claimed to be a prisoner of war. They just think he was actually a Mexican deserter who was able to escape. He's like, yeah, I don't want to be part of that. That's cool. And the rest were women and children. And the reason they were let go is so they could actually spread the word that, hey, Santa Anna's here. He is not happy, so we need to deal with this situation. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, oh, now I forget. It doesn't matter. That's fine. So then you have the Texan rallying cry, remember the Alamo. So I'm going to stop here, and we'll come back to it because I know this is getting long.